Alright guys, so we got a couple of new things in tonight, mostly for the Haltech. We got one of the can expansion modules. We got two pressure sensors. One is going to be used for oil pressure, which we did go ahead and get one of these torque solution fittings that will allow us to adapt the 1/8 NPT to the 1/8 whatever the other one is. I'll fill that in here somewhere else. We did get one other little piece here. Went in and got a tire monitoring system. I've wanted to try this out for a while. It's just going to be the four valve stem caps that go on this. And it'll just go basically one on each tire, connected in through the can expansion module. And then yeah, we should have tire monitoring at that point. We'll get to installing here probably tomorrow. All right, so we've got the schematics for everything, the calibration, the termination layout for the pressure sensor. In this case, it's going to be an oil pressure sensor. Got some wiring already, along with some wiring tools to start working on this. Went ahead and cut a length of black wire, probably kind of hard to see, but we're going to match the length of the blue and red. Pretty much going to go with black for the black for signal ground. We're going to use red for the power, and then blue for signal itself. All right, we're going to get to working on this, and once all of this is done, we will then start the install of the sensor and cleaning up the rat's nest under the intake. All right, it looks like a mess because honestly it is, but we've got our 3 wires cut. They're roughly the same length. This is a ProWire USA spool. Had used them for a project in the past, so just gonna use up the old wire that I've got. But now we're gonna get to crimping everything, and we'll be right back. All right, so we got the 3 end pieces on, along with the grommets. They're not the best looking in the world. We'll work on that as time goes. Did have to cut a little bit off. That's why I was not too upset about cutting them so long, just in case something comes up and we've got to adjust the length. That's totally fine. So now we're going to get everything seated in the into the connector, and next we'll be wiring it through the vehicle. All right, she's anything but pretty, but everything appears to be on there in the appropriate order. Now, I did say A was going to be ground, or rather black, B is power, red, and C is signal, so blue. We'll get the lock put on and we should be all set. All right, so we do have the wires to the firewall. We're actually using the same hole used for our reference line to the ECU itself. We do have all 3 wires here. We've got the kick plate exposed. We're going to be pulling the kick plate off, and while that is out, we're also going to go ahead and put our expansion module in. And get everything plugged up. All right, you can see that we have the transponder installed in the vehicle. We just got it setting up out of the way, going down to the can expansion module. And then up here we've got the 4 different valve caps. Each one has a corresponding sticker. This one being front right. I'm going to go with front right being passenger side, and we'll correct it if there turns out to be a problem. So all we've got to do is take the cap off, thread the new one on. And that's it. We'll get the other 3 done, and then we'll get it all programmed in the ECU. Alright, it's probably somewhat difficult to see, but we do have the wires into the auxiliary port for the oil pressure sensor. We're getting everything done in the system now. So to do so, we had to go to sensors, enable oil pressure, add the wire. In this case, we went with AV1, again on the auxiliary plug. And then for oil pressure, we just assigned it the settings provided by Haltech. 0.5 volts, 0 psi, 5 volts, 150 psi, everything in between. Just it's really hard to see. That's the configuration that Haltech has, so we're going to go with that. We're going to plug up the sensor real quick. We don't have everything out of the way, and I'll show you real quick. So one of the things that we plan to do is get rid of all of this rat's nest of tubing. That's going to be done over the next few days. So for now, we've just got the sensor plugged there. We're going to get the wiring cleaned up, but this is to get everything in place. So we are going to take the sensor. Alright, so we're going to take the sensor, and again, we're just going to plug it up, make sure that our readings are correct, and then we'll go from there. Be back in a moment. Alright, so we've got the sensor plugged up. We're going to go ahead and move inside and make sure that we're at least getting a 0 reading. So we're going to go ahead and power it off. And then I am going to cycle. Alright, so we are now showing 0.0, whereas earlier we were showing minus 29. We don't have it on here yet, but we'll get it tossed on and give it a shot. Alright, so this is the most recent update that Haltech has had. Before, we used to have to work out of the ICC software to mess with the dash, but now we're able to actually deal with it in NSP. So I've got a USB that comes from the Haltech and a USB that comes from the dash. So we're actually able to, and just show you real quick, we're actually able to just go back and forth, read devices, whatever the case may be. You can see here we're connected with the IC7 dash. Alright, so I did just enable the dash here. However, it's not really showing any of the tire information because I do have the caps on currently. So we're going to figure that out in the ECU, and we'll be right back. Alright, so we got all the wiring run. We got the sensor tested. Sensor is getting voltage, showing 0 psi. So got a buddy with me today, going to help me out, get a couple of things tore down. I'm going to go ahead and get this rat nest removed here, get these 2 10mm bolts taken off for this cover so that we can get the alternator out of the way. And then while I'm working on that, he's going to get the intercooler off so we can get the pitch stop mount in and replace the intercooler hoses. All right, so we got the alternator out of the way. What we're going to be going for is this little sensor here. We're going to be taking it out and the housing that it is tied into, and replacing with the new one. On top of that, we'll be getting covers for this and this and this to make sure we don't have any vacuum leaks. We did get the intercooler out of the way. We're going to go ahead and get this replaced. One thing we did find getting in here is the spring for the clutch was completely off, so we're going to go ahead and get that put back on. Afterwards, we will get the intercooler buttoned up with the new hoses, and then we'll get her put back on the car. So the reason we're replacing this with this, if it'll focus, the bronze one has a different thread pitch than this one, which is going to be for our sensor. So more on things that we found that are just absolutely fucked up with this vehicle. Found a ground wire just completely hanging loose. We're going to get that corrected, put back in the proper location, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of this. That's a bitch. So, while trying to loosen, we broke the tensioner adjuster completely away from the body. Fantastic. All right, so we got the alternator back on. We got the intercooler back on. We had to fight with that one for a little bit. So something happened as we were loosening the belt for the AC compressor. As I was trying to loosen it, this completely broke, and that is the back belt. So we're not able to fully finish everything up until we can get a new tensioner. However, we are going to go ahead and start the vehicle for 5-10 seconds, make sure the oil pressure sensor is reading, and then we're going to finish up for the day until we can get that part in. All right, letting everything come online. And starting. She's gonna be unhappy for a second.